Hello, hello, hello. This is Attorney Mike Gravel coming to you from Chicago. As usual, we're going to follow up on this case. It gets pretty dicey. It gets pretty chippy. Let's get going.
All right, we're back on the record in the case of the People versus Lamantia. It's case number CR 21-2254. Mr. Lamantia is present in court. He is here. Well, all of the parties are present, the same parties that were present yesterday when we heard. We are in the middle of a preliminary hearing. Before calling the case this morning, I did speak with counsel in chambers and was advised that there was some conflict that happened outside of the courthouse in the afternoon, and we're going to take necessary steps to ensure that all sides are protected in and around this building. I'm also going to make sure that individuals who are creating problems for the orderly process of this preliminary hearing, that those individuals will not return to Department 4. So if I see those individuals...
If anybody knows what happened, let me know. That really makes me curious.
Ones that were creating problems on the street tomorrow, I'm going to make sure that they are not in this department during this preliminary hearing. It has disrupted already the orderly presentation of evidence. It has a possibility of impacting the testimony of witnesses, and I don't want that to happen. So just letting you all know that. The discussion also talked about what will happen if we don't resume today. The parties don't believe that we will resume today. We will not go forward tomorrow if that is the situation. I've already advised everybody of my schedule, which was anticipated when the preliminary hearing was set. And it's more likely that the case will not conclude today rather. So we will return for evidence November 28th. That's Monday. And move forward until the preliminary hearing evidence has all been received. Anybody want to add to the off-the-record summation?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
Okay. Are you ready to proceed with your case in chief, Mr. Murray?
Yes, Your Honor.
And
I'm sorry. Did we discuss Dr. Beck?
Oh. We did not discuss Dr. Beck.
It just occurred to me. We're going to proceed right now with Sergeant Reeves.
Sure.
But we've agreed, because of Dr. Beck's schedule and issues regarding his availability during, day to day, that at 1:30 or 2, when the court gets back, we will go out of order, stop Sergeant Reeves shortly, and then put him on, because it won't be, I don't think it'll be very long.
Happy birthday.
All right, great.
And I have no objection to that. We discussed that this morning, Judge.
Okay, very well. All right, we will resume with the testimony of Sergeant Reeves. Sergeant Reeves, if you'll make your way up to the witness stand once again. I would just remind you that you remain under oath.
Yes. Just to place you in the right location of where we left off yesterday. We left off, you were discussing with Officer Lamantia, right after he had seen Trevor Seaver sitting in the alcove or crouching, punching in the alcove. And then he pulled up a little farther. In doing that, he hadn't accelerated, and he then turned his car to the right. Did he indicate to you why he did those actions, pulling up farther, turning the car to the right?
Yes. He said, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
He said that when he was in a position right next to Trevor, he was a sitting duck, and Trevor would have the jump on him. Being that his windows in his car were not bulletproof, he was in a position of disadvantage, so he pulled forward, and he described it as canted his car to the right, which would put more of the vehicle between himself and Trevor to provide additional protection in the case of if Trevor started firing at him. And then also he said it gave him an extra second to exit his patrol car and be in a position to engage in what he believed was going to be a gunfight.
Did Officer Lamantia indicate to you why he needed that extra second?
Being inside the vehicle, I remember him describing that it's difficult to maneuver yourself inside the vehicle. It also takes you time to open the door and get out. So basically, it gave him that extra second to be in a better tactical position.
And did he indicate to you, without that second, what he felt was going to happen between him and Trevor?
Yes, he believed he was going to be shot by Trevor.
So after he canted the vehicle to the right, what did Officer Lamantia do to indicate to you that he did next?
So I forgot to say, as he was driving, he said he lost sight of Trevor. As he was, maneuvering further forward and canting the car to the right, he lost sight of Trevor. And then as he exited the vehicle, getting out of the driver's door and turning to where he last saw Trevor, he was now, he was surprised. He thought that they were going to be face-to-face engaged in a gun battle, but instead he saw that Trevor had fled on foot and was rounding the corner of that building where the alcove is, and was running away.
Now, relative to prior to going past the wall of that alcove, when he had just got over the speed bump, he indicated to you, prior testimony to us, that he indicated to you that he was afraid there was going to be an ambush there.
Yes.
When he saw Trevor Seaver run away from him, when he indicates he got out of the car, he was surprised because Trevor Seaver wasn't there. He was running away around that wall, away from him. Did he indicate to you whether he reevaluated what was happening between him and Trevor Seaver at that point?
Yes.
Yes, he indicated to you what his thoughts were?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and did he indicate to you whether or not he thought that there was still going to be an ambush?
That basically kind of flip-flopped back and forth a couple times. There were times when...
Yeah, by the way, a lot of this stuff is leading. I don't know if that's an agreement, but it's also helpful. A lot of the testimony is helpful to the defense, so there'd be no reason to object to it. So it just makes it faster for everybody.
He described that he no longer thought it was an ambush, but I believe it was in the second interview when we discussed that part in a little bit more detail. He did say, as he also rounded the corner and saw Trevor running through the field towards a group of redwood trees, he still felt at that time that it was an ambush. Basically, he described that he believed he surprised Trevor, that Trevor didn't have the opportunity to remove his firearm from wherever it was concealed, and that Trevor was moving to a different position of advantage. Lamantia thought it was Trevor heading to the redwood trees that were in that little field area, where he was going to turn and use the redwood trees as cover to now engage in the gunfight and shoot Officer Lamantia.
In this portion of the discussion where he thinks there's going to be an ambush as he's coming to the wall, where it hinges on the road, to where Trevor's running into the ambush, into the trees, did he ever indicate to you, or did Officer Lamantia indicate to you that he ever gave consideration that what we had was a person who was running away from a police officer?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
So his, like I said, his thought process that he explained changed a few times. There were parts where he described that he thought it was still an ambush, that Trevor was going to turn and shoot him. There were also times when he described that his mindset had changed and he believed Trevor was now making his way to the location of the family and was going to kill the family. But those were, as far as, I'm sorry, Dick, go back to your question, as far as it being a suspect that was running away from an officer, he didn't say that or describe that specifically. He thought that the suspect, or Trevor, was running to the family.
So when it alternated back and forth, the alternation was Trevor's either running to try to get to the family, or he was going to turn and ambush Officer Lamantia.
Basically, that's what I recall.
His explanations to you, did they ever include just the guy that's running away from a police officer because he is afraid the police officer is going to arrest him.
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Did he or did he not, in any of those changes, indicate to you that he gave consideration to the fact that Trevor Seaver was just running away from a police officer?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Did you discuss with him at any point whether he gave consideration? Was there, well, let me ask you this, was there any discussion regarding an individual running from a police officer?
Yes.
Okay. Was any of that discussion?
That is interesting. I have not seen the body cam yet. I had several people tell me if you see the body cam, you'll be convinced that that the guy was not a threat and he was running away. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I want to. I doubt I'll ever show it on here because I think it'll probably be a violation if I do. Having not seen it yet, I might change my mind after I do see it. But that's interesting. If you've seen it, tell us what you think based on the body cam. Based on the testimony, I think the defense is doing awesome. But that could all be overturned by the body cam of the incident, in my eyes.
Related to just running from a police officer as opposed to an ambush or getting to the family?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
I'm not sure. I don't recall that specifically.
What direction did he indicate that Trevor Seaver was
Find a way
running?
to get to Colorado
In a southwestern direction.
so I can ski.
Uh,
Thank you.
Did he indicate to you what direction Victory Life Church was?
Yes, he knew where it was.
And did he indicate to you what direction it was from the location of Church of the Brethren?
I believe he recalled that it was to the southeast. He remembered passing it on his way to the location of the shooting.
Now, after he came around the corner that impinged on the road running after his car, was there any discussion regarding Trevor Seaver's arms?
Yes.
And what did he indicate in regards to Trevor Seaver's arms?
Well, there was a significant discussion about his observations of Trevor at this time. He said as he rounded the corner, Officer Lamantia was now out in the open, and Trevor was making his way towards the group of redwood trees where he would have cover. He said as Trevor was running away from him, he had his back to him, and that his hands, he described them as being stagnant in front of him near his waistband. He said, he described persons that are typically fleeing from the police, how they are in a sprint, how they pump their arms because they're trying to get away and run fast. He described the fact that Trevor was not running at a full sprint. He was not pumping his arms. Like I said, his hands were stationary or stagnant, I'm sorry, he said, in front of him.
As Trevor was running southwest, in the southwestern direction, behind the Church of the Brethren, what did Officer Lamantia?
So as he rounded the corner and he was in the open, he realized he did not have anywhere to...
When you say,
I'm sorry.
as he rounded the corner, you mean?
I'm sorry, as Officer Lamantia rounded the corner in pursuit of Trevor.
Objection, Your Honor, is non-responsive. The question was, what did he do, not what he thought.
Well, I'm going to allow him to finish the answer and I'll rule on the objection, but the question was, what did you see? What did the defendant say he saw the alleged victim do?
It's what Officer Lamantia saw Trevor do.
Or I thought the question was.
Okay, I guess I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Why don't you just ask the question again?
Cover that. I'll re-ask the question. Trevor's now running southwest across the back lawn, at the back side of the Church of the Brethren. Officer Lamantia comes around the corner and sees him. We talked about that. What did Officer Lamantia do after that moment?
He stopped running, raised his firearm. We discussed the fact that he momentarily paused, and he described that he was at a significant distance. I think he said 60 yards, and that he aimed his firearm at Trevor center mass and fired 5 to 6 rounds in consecutive succession.
I'm sorry, I'm going to take you back a little bit, where he's not pumping his arms, and his hands are stagnant. In the second interview, did you also discuss what you could see of what Officer Lamantia could see of Trevor's hands?
Yes.
And what did he say in that regard?
He never saw his hands. I asked him if he ever saw Trevor with a weapon, or if Trevor ever made any movement towards him, or if he ever saw his hands, and he answered no to all of those. He never saw Trevor's hands.
Now to discharging a service weapon. Did he indicate to you anything regarding what that decision was in his mind?
Wait, you mean as far as his belief of it being lethal force? I am confused by your question. I'm sorry.
Would it refresh your recollection to review your report?
Yes.
It would be December 30th. It's on page 17. About 2/3 of the way down, the line starts with "so." You could read that and tell us whether that.
Well, he has a right to remain silent for starters, because he's the defendant, if that's what you were talking about.
Or just that's the first time. Yeah, gotcha.
But I think they will call him.
Are you referring? So at that point, he said he made a conscious decision and discharged his service weapon. He discussed his backdrop being a safe location. Because of it, there was a stucco wall behind or downrange from Trevor where he was located. So he knew that if he missed, his rounds wouldn't cause or wouldn't likely cause risk to the public.
And after he fired, how many rounds did he indicate he fired?
I think he said 5 to 6.
And during later investigation, did you find out that it was 4? Well, did you or did you not? If you didn't, that's fine.
So that wasn't part of the interview. That was done. That part of the investigation was done by criminal detectives. But I believe that they discovered there was 4 rounds.
During that first discharge.
Correct.
Did he indicate to you where he was when he discharged the weapon?
Yes.
And what did he do?
It was basically right as he had rounded the corner of the building, out in the open where the grass field area begins and meets where the asphalt roadway is that he had driven on to get to that location.
Did he indicate to you whether he said anything to Trevor Seaver before he fired the shots?
He said that he was processing a lot of information in that moment, and he did not believe he said anything prior to shooting.
Okay. Did he indicate to you what it was that he was processing?
All the different factors of what he was encountering in that moment, of his belief that he was going to be fired on, or potentially Trevor making it to go, his intent to go kill the family.
Did he indicate to you that after he fired those rounds, did he indicate to you what reaction there was, if any, from Trevor Seaver?
Yes, he said he saw Trevor stumble and fall. And he said, he described something about body mechanics. I don't remember the exact words, but basically that it didn't appear he tripped, that it appeared that he had fallen from being struck by gunfire.
What did Officer Seaver tell you he did at that point?
I believe at that time is when he said he assessed himself, because he wasn't sure if one of the gunshots he heard had come from Trevor. So he assessed himself to determine if he had been struck by gunfire or if he felt anything that was wet on his own body.
Did he indicate to you whether he was able to determine whether he'd been struck by anything?
He said he had not. And then from that point, he realized that Trevor had somehow made it. So he decided that was a good time for him to close the gap and move towards Trevor. And at this time, he realized Trevor had somehow made it through a set of bushes.
Yeah, I never got to
and
that
had
one.
his back to that stucco wall that I was describing earlier. That was the backdrop. But I remember him saying something to the effect, he wasn't sure how Trevor got into that position, whether he crawled or how he made his way through the bushes to that stucco wall. But at that time, Officer Lamantia pressed forward and made his way to one of the trees, using the tree as cover.
Did you discuss with Officer Lamantia after he came to cover what happened next?
Yes, I believe he discussed how he considered doing a magazine change at one point because he knew it had fired some rounds. But then he realized he was by himself, and so it wasn't a good time for that. And he said something about him fumbling with the magazine, but then he put it back and he left his gun as it was. And at this time, he described that he was giving Trevor orders to show me your hands, something to that effect.
Did he indicate to you how many times he said that?
I don't remember if he said how many times.
And did he indicate to you why he said, show me your hands?
Yes. So he said at this time he was seeing Trevor reach down towards his, I think he said his right pocket or down on his right side of his waistband area with his right hand. He said that Trevor was dropping it down and he was ordering him to show me your hands.
And did you talk with Officer Lamantia what his thought process was when he saw Trevor's hands go down to his side, either pocket area or side area?
Yes, he said that he believed due to him surprising Trevor and Trevor not having the opportunity to obtain his firearm to engage in the gunfight, he thought at this time Trevor was now trying to obtain the gun from his waistband or pocket area where he was reaching down.
Did he say anything more as to what he thought Trevor Seaver's actions indicated?
In that moment, I don't recall him saying anything else about his actions or what they indicated. I mean,
Okay, would refresh your recollection to look at your report.
yes.
So it'll be 18, essentially right in the middle, starting with the line that says keys, and going through the line that starts with opportunity. So those two lines.
Okay, that refreshed my recollection. So at this time, he believes that Trevor is trying to retrieve the firearm and that it's his last opportunity to kill a cop. And that's what he's trying to do at that time.
And that takes me to the point where he testified that he said, he yelled, show me your hands.
Yes, he was yelling that during this time.
So after Officer Lamantia makes it to cover behind the tree, what happens next?
Trevor is continuing to reach down and not raising his hands as Officer Lamantia is ordering. And he discharges a second volley, and I think he said it was 3 more rounds or 2 or 3 more rounds.
And after he discharges those 2 or 3 more rounds, does he have any more communication with Trevor Seaver?
At this time, I remember him talking about, I don't remember if he's still saying, show me your hands at this time, but he talked about how Trevor was not necessarily complying completely at this point, but he could tell that Trevor was injured and believed that the injuries were likely causing his non-compliance, if you will. That he was obvious. He said I remember him saying he heard Trevor groaning and that he didn't think that Trevor was able to comply at this point.
And at some point, did any other officers arrive?
Yes.
And did he indicate who it was, the first officer he saw arrive?
He said Officer Booza, which is on another officer that's in the crime reduction team, I believe at that time, was the first person that arrived. I recall Officer Lamantia saying when he used his radio to say what was happening, that he mentioned that he was at a park, and he said that he heard several patrol cars pass the church, and then he realized he had made a mistake and said the park, but Officer Booza was the first person arrived, and then he began providing a better description of his location.
Following that, in both the December 30 interview and the January 28th interview, did you go into several more specific areas?
Can you?
Well, let me ask you this. During either of those interviews, did you discuss with him whether he had ever considered contacting the family?
Yes.
And what did he say in that regard in December 30th?
the interviews would blend together a little bit in my mind. But I do remember him saying that he did not ever consider going to contact the family because he believed his sole responsibility was to get to the location of the suspect and take him into custody.
Now, do you recall on December 30th whether you discussed the consequences of Trevor escaping and getting around the corner?
Yes.
And what was that?
He believed that Trevor would have immediate access to the family and would be able to kill them.
Okay, did you further discuss if he didn't get to the family immediately, any possible situation?
Little rundown.
Yes, he said that
Last week
it was
ahead.
possible. I remember at one point him describing that now that the police were on scene and the family seeing that they may go back to the house so that Trevor would make his way back to the house and be able to kill them there. Or the other scenario, if the family didn't go back to the house, Trevor would get to the house, lie in wait for the family to return, and then kill him at that time.
Okay, and then in January 28th interview, did you discuss this possibility of Trevor Seaver escaping and coming back later?
Yes, we discussed it more during that second interview.
And what did he indicate in regard to lying in wait on that second interview?
Well, during the second interview, we covered more detail about the immediate threat to the family and whether or not lying in wait for the family to return would be considered an immediate threat to their safety. At that time, he responded that no, it would not be an immediate threat.
And did he tell you why that would not be an immediate threat?
I don't recall exactly what he said.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at your January 28th report at the very bottom of 48
Yes.
and top of 49?
All right. It refreshed my recollection.
And what did he indicate in that regard?
He said that specifically lying in wait, Trevor lying in wait would not be an immediate threat to the family's safety, and that they would be able to sequester him inside the house and turn it into more of a tactical operation with SWAT team because he would be contained.
Now, in your discussions on December 30th and January 28th of December 30th of 2020, January 28th of 21, did you discuss whether he had ever seen Trevor Seaver with a gun?
Yes, we did.
And what did he indicate in that regard?
He said no, he never saw him with a gun.
Specifically on January 28th, did you discuss with him what his mindset was during this incident?
Yes, I did ask him what.
First off, let me just clarify because I just said his. We're talking about Officer Lamantia. His
Right.
mindset, correct?
Okay. Yes, I did ask Officer Lamantia what his mindset was and what he believed he was getting himself into while he was en route to the call. And it was simply a man with a gun looking to kill his family. I believe he said something pretty basic. And
Did he include anybody else besides the family?
I think he might have said officers and family. There was a discussion about that as well.
Now, did you discuss with Officer Lamantia how many times he had been called to a scene where a person was possibly armed with a firearm?
Yes, we did.
And did he indicate how many times in his career that had been?
I don't remember if I said specifically firearm, but I believe I asked him armed with a weapon.
Okay.
And it was a lot. I think he said something like 600 or I'm not 100% certain on the number he said.
Would it refresh your recollection to review your reports?
Yes.
January 28th at 19.
Page 19. Yes, I remember.
And what did he indicate in that regard?
So my number was close. He said 600 to 700 being a modest number and said it was a fairly common occurrence in Modesto.
And did he indicate to you the primary tactical response during those 600 to 700 times?
Yes.
And what did he indicate in that regard?
I believe I asked the question of regarding staging and that being a typical response from the Modesto Police Department, and he agreed that staging is typically what's used.
Did he indicate to you whether or not he had ever used staging?
Yes, he said he had numerous times.
Did you have a discussion with him as to what the benefits are from staging?
Yes, we did.
And what was that?
He described the additional resources, additional officers with different skill sets, additional equipment.
Did you discuss with him whether or not there were any processes to set up a perimeter?
I don't remember us discussing processes.
Or did you discuss with him at all what a perimeter is?
I believe so.
To start, why don't you tell us what that is?
A perimeter?
Yes.
Sure. Basically, if you know an approximate location of a suspect, you can start placing resources or officers in specific location to surround the suspect's location, basically.
And did he discuss with you whether or not being able to set a perimeter is a benefit of staging?
You did, yes.
And what did he say in that regard?
I can't recall specifically, I'm sorry.
What do you mean by staging?
Staging. So rather than an officer proceeding to a scene alone, they will stop nearby and then wait for additional resources to arrive or additional officers to get there to have more of a safe approach into an incident.
And is that commonly understood in the department to be the definition of staging?
Yes, we even on the radio said, I'll be staging at such and such location.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, to refresh your recollection regarding perimeter, review 21 of 61, Mr. Lamantia's, your second question on that page and Mr. Lamantia, Officer Lamantia's second response.
On page 21?
Yes.
I'm sorry, was that the first interview or second?
Oh, sorry, second, page 21 of 61, the January 28th.
So in that, I'm sorry, yes, I refreshed my recollection.
So did he discuss with you, in discussing the benefits of staging, did he discuss with you the perimeter, yes or no?
Yes, he said it when you are staging and setting up that plan, you can have time to establish a perimeter.
Did you discuss with him whether he was aware of or had been involved in situations where a person was reported armed and it turned out not to be?
Yes, we did ask.
What was the discussion? What nature did that discussion take?
So I believe that was Sergeant Fainer asking that line of questioning. And he described that, yes, he's been on incidents before where that has occurred. I think I remember Officer Lamantia talking about how sometimes people will discuss there being weapons involved to elicit more of an emergency response. I believe he said something along those lines.
Just in talking with him, did you discuss with him whether or not there was any active violence occurring when he first came in contact with Trevor?
Yes.
And what did he say in that regard?
I think initially, again, I'd have to check the transcripts to be sure, but I think initially he said, yes, there was active violence.
And did he change that answer then at some point?
Yeah, because I'm sorry, yes, I asked him to describe what he meant by there actively being violence. And then as we went through that line of questioning, he switched it to say basically that it would be potential. There was a potential for violence to have occurred.
But he didn't indicate, after switching it, he wasn't indicating that there was any active violence that occurred?
Not at that moment, no.
Did you discuss with him whether, and this is specifically in January 28th, did you discuss with him whether he did anything to confirm with the family that Trevor did or did not have a gun?
Yes, he did not do anything to confirm that.
And what was his feelings in that regard? Did he give you any specific feelings as to his thought process in that regard?
His mindset was basically he had to get to contain the suspect, and that would was the only thing that would keep the family safe.
Okay. Going back specifically to contacting the family to see if Trevor had a gun, did he make any comments to you regarding his thought process of why he wouldn't contact the family to see if he had a gun in that instance?
I don't remember that specific question being asked. We had discussion about contacting the family, whether he's done that in the past, go to contact the callers first to get additional information.
And did he indicate to you whether he had done that in the past?
He has done that in the past. We also discussed whether or not he could send another officer to go do that for him and get that immediate line of communication rather than go through additional steps of having dispatchers and call takers involved. And he said he's done that in the past as well, but he did not employ any of those tactics here.
Okay. And as far as what his thought processes were in this instance, would it refresh your recollection to review your report? It's page 33 of 61, January 28th. And it is Detective Fainter, or Sergeant Fainter or Detective Fainter?
Sergeant Fainter.
Sergeant Fainter and Officer Lamantia's second question and answer.
Okay.
I don't even understand this.
So
He's testifying to someone else's
and what did he say in
testimony.
that regard?
He was
Did I miss
relying
something?
completely on what the family had told the dispatchers. And because it's a family member saying this about another family member, and he said that he believed it was gospel.
Now, you testified yesterday that he indicated to you in the original call, he knew they were either at or going to the Victory Life Center.
Objection Vegas to who?
Sustained.
So at the time of the initial call, when you took the call, you testified yesterday that Officer Lamantia knew that the family was either going to or was at the Victory Life Center.
Yes.
So did you discuss with him how one would get updated information if the family was possibly moved, or where they were when he arrived on scene?
Objection leading.
Yes, that during that time we discussed that it's common for us to send another officer to go make contact with the family to get firsthand information. And so we discussed that tactic and whether or not he considered it.
I do
And he
indeed.
said he did
Daniel.
not.
discuss with him asking whether or not he could ask anyone else involved where the family was at that moment?
Oh, we discussed asking on the radio the dispatchers to provide an updated location.
Did you discuss with him in any of those past 600 to 700 instances whether he had done that?
I believe we discussed. Yeah, we talked about that. He said, I believe he said he did.
And did you discuss with him whether or not he did that in this instance?
Yes, we did. He said he did not do that here.
Same with other
This is
responding
true, Bill.
officers. That's why yesterday that few other officers were responding.
Yes.
Was there a way upon arriving on scene that you discussed with him whether or not?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to have you pause for a second. I think the audience are going to leave right now. It might just be a little bit loud. Take a 5-minute recess just to give us a stretching break, and we'll start back up at 10:30. We'll close the courtroom. We're not going to take a morning recess, a full one. We're just going to take a quick one. So we'll open the courtroom at 10:30. And also remember not to discuss your testimony with anybody.
Yeah.
Well, during that was I will call for a deputy to
I thought I had to do this up. Sorry.
I'm gonna go to the cafeteria. Before I can hang out here.
Okay. Then I'll just have the only thing I'll have the family escort.
And giving.
Did you discuss with him any other priorities in that regard?
Sorry about that.
You may resume.
Did he give you any reason? I'm sorry, did you say it to start?
Yes.
Did he give you any reasons for not doing this regarding the officers?
I believe his answer to that question was similar to others, where he felt a need to get to the suspect and take him into custody. That was his number one priority.
Did you discuss with him any other priorities in that regard? Well, let me withdraw that. Did you discuss with him any other information he had in that regard? Regarding where other officers were?
Yes, there was a point where we talked about, when I asked him if he knew if anybody was close, he did not, but he did go on to say, when he put out on the radio, 1033, which is priority radio traffic, and giving updates on what was happening, that he did not immediately hear any sirens, so he knew they were not extremely close.
Okay. Well, would it refresh your recollection to review your report?
Yes.
We're talking about the second interview here, page 43 of 61. Starting with your second question and going down to the Officer Fainter's last question and Officer Lamantia's last answer. I'm sorry, next to the last answer.
So during that line of, I'm sorry, that refreshed my recollection.
So did you discuss with them what other actions he took as far as knowing where officers were or who was coming?
He did see that
I mean, what you
on the
talking about?
computer, on the MDC, that several additional officers were responding. So he knew they were on their way, and he said that he didn't think that they would be too terribly long.
And during that conversation, did he discuss with you whether or not he knew backup was coming?
Yes, he said that he saw on MDC that several additional officers were coming to the call.
Did you discuss with him during that second interview, taking you back to the point where he came around the corner of that building and then ultimately fired 4 shots? He thought it was 5 or 6 shots was his statement, correct?
Right.
Did he indicate to you where the closest cover was for him, Officer Lamantia?
Yeah, I remember him talking about either getting on the ground or move. I believe he discussed moving to his left back towards the building where that alcove was located.
That building would have been east of him?
Yes, to his east.
Shortly after these interviews, were you contacted by anyone from the district attorney's office?
Nailed it.
Shortly after, yes, there have been a few contacts since the interviews.
Okay. Do you know who John Locke is, Toronto?
Yes, I do.
Had you had any contact with him?
Yes.
And what was that in regard to?
He just needed access to the Officer Lamantia's PBRS videos.
Okay, and did you arrange for access for him to, at the DA's office, have access to those DVRs videos?
Yes, I did.
Cross-examination. And I think you know, but we'll stop at 11. You just take your time, but we will resume with your cross-examination, I think, after our doctor testifies this afternoon.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Sergeant.
Good afternoon.
You said that you have been with the Modesto Police Department how long?
15 years.
And so back in 2020, 13 years.
Yeah, so it was, let's see, January of 2007 when I came to the Modesto Police Department.
You said you spent some time with the Ceres Police Department?
Yes.
And how long were you with Ceres?
It was about 2.5 to 3 years. It was actually June of 2004 when I started there.
Any prior law enforcement before Ceres?
No.
I think you testified during yesterday's examination that in December of 2020, you were part of the Internal Affairs Investigation Unit.
Yes, I was.
You're still currently there?
Yes, I am.
When did you start that assignment?
February 2020.
What was your assignment prior to IA?
Patrol supervisor.
Remember the size of your department. When you were a patrol supervisor, how many officers do you supervise?
That varies on your shift, but usually somewhere between 9 to 11.
And how long were you the patrol supervisor?
I promoted in 2017.
So when you promoted, that was your assignment to be a patrol supervisor?
Correct.
So prior to your promotion to sergeant, you were a police officer?
Yes.
I'm not familiar. Do you have corporals in your department?
No longer. We don't.
And what were your assignments when you were a police officer?
Wow. I was a patrol officer for several years. I was a school police officer for 1 year. I was assigned to the traffic unit as a motor officer and traffic collision investigator for, in totality, about 7 years. And I was a field training officer while I was working patrol. I think that pretty much sums it up.
So I'm clear, when you say motor officer, that's motorcycle,
Yes.
assigned to the police department SWAT team.
No, I have not.
Yesterday, you were describing for us training that SWAT officers and regular officers in your department receive. And there was some discussion about twice a year training. You recall that testimony?
Yes.
What do you mean by that? Twice a year training?
I believe our department has range training days for all officers twice a year.
It's
where we
training that
qualify
happens
with their
twice a year.
handguns. Not 100% certain that it is twice a year. It could be more. I know we do it quite a bit more than what's required by post. But it's our range training day where we go out and do our qualification course, plus some other different types of training scenarios and things of that nature.
How frequently, and maybe this is part of it, how frequently do you as an
We've got
officer
Modesto peeps.
engage in perishable skills training?
A lot. Because we have everything from the range training, firearms, driving training, which we do frequently. I mean, I don't have specific dates or anything off the top of my head, but I'd have to get that from our training unit. I'm sorry, not specific dates, but frequency.
Needless to say, every officer in your department is required to do that, correct?
Yes.
Then we have, in addition to that, SWAT training. They train more frequently, as you described yesterday.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, and that's what I want to drill down. Since you're not a SWAT officer, you don't train with SWAT.
I do not.
Have you ever attended, well, excuse me, have you seen a SWAT training schedule for your department?
No, I haven't.
Just somebody asked them, do you know how frequently SWAT team members train?
I believe it's every month.
Oh, good Lord.
Just from working there at the department over all these years,
Yeah. Well, let's go
our
back to the
SWAT team
case, huh?
members are frequently pulled from the patrol assignments because they have training days that they have to go to. Plus, during our interview, I believe I remember Officer Lamantia saying it's monthly training and that they do range qualification every other month during their SWAT training.
And after that interview, what did you do to confirm what he said to you about the training?
So that is unrelated to the actual interview itself. It was part of the internal affairs investigation, but there were training records that were obtained.
Okay. My question was, after you interviewed Officer Lamantia and he gave you this information about training, did you do anything to confirm what he was telling you?
Regarding their monthly training?
Yeah. Any sort of training that you just described him telling you.
I did obtain his department training records.
Your interviews with Officer Lamantia were not a part of the criminal investigation, were they?
No, they weren't.
And what information did you review prior to interviewing Officer Lamantia in December 2020?
It sure would.
I reviewed the body-worn camera videos for himself and other officers that were at the scene, as well as the dispatch log. We call it CAD report is what we call it.
Okay, so if you reviewed the CAD report, you recall what time Officer Lamantia was actually on scene at this church?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
About 11:30, give or take?
That sounds, yeah, around there.
11:30 in the morning.
Correct.
And what time was his interview the next day?
I'd have to look at my transcript. I can get that for you.
Yeah, if at any time you need to look at something, just tell us what you're looking at, please.
Okay, I'm gonna look at the first transcript from the first interview, and then right in the beginning, I state what time it is.
So if you would review that and refresh your recollection and then let us know.
8:30 a.m.
Okay, so less than 24 hours after this incident, you interviewed him.
Yes,
And then the second interview was a month later?
approximately.
And so you reviewed the CAD information related to this call for service prior to your interview, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us what information Officer Lamantia had as he arrived at the church?
Based on his interview with me, what he told me?
No, based on your review of the CAD information.
Your Honor, I believe, so the internal affairs investigation is a personnel investigation that, from my understanding, is still confidential. And that Officer Lamantia signed a release to release his interview and transcripts and audio recordings. So I'm not sure what I'm permitted to discuss as far as the personnel side versus just the interview.
Well, you're not permitted absent a Pitch's motion being filed and revealed, but I don't think your question went to that. So why don't you just ask the question again?
Okay.
Sure. Let me lay a foundational question again. I asked you what you reviewed prior to the interview, and I think you said the CAD information.
Correct.
Okay, what's the CAD information?
So that is our computer dispatch. And then basically the information that's starting on the computer screen that the officer sees initially, but it does continue on significantly longer after that as more resources are attached to the call, additional comments may be entered. So, records checks are run, driver's license histories, warrant checks, everything. It can get towards 100 pages long after a while.
My question to you was, what information, based on your review of that CAD report, did Officer Lamantia know when he arrived at the church where he encountered Trevor Seaver?
So I can speculate that he would only know the initial information. I don't know exactly everything that he knew out of it other than the information that he told me during the interview, which was just seeing some of the initial notes get entered in the call as far as the reason why he was responding to the call, additional officers that were being attached to the call.
And based on that review, do you recall him with dispatch asking, hey, can somebody respond to this call? Do you recall that?
Yes,
And then Officer Lamantia said, yes, I can do that. I'll respond to that call.
yes,
And then the information came out that the reporting party says that Mr. Seaver has a gun and he's going to come to our house and quote unquote, you won't like what happens when I get there or something along those lines. Do you recall that?
yes, I do.
So that information is in the CAD and that information is on the computer that Officer Lamantia can see.
Correct.
Then Officer Lamantia is driving toward that location. You see the information where he gives dispatch his locations, correct?
Correct.
And prior to him driving into the church, or excuse me, prior to him driving into that, what we've described as a choke point, he asked for follow-up information. Do you recall that?
I don't remember specifically, but it might be in my transcripts.
You may. It's just to refresh his recollection.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you give me a second?
Sure. I'll get actually this, but we're trying to get on the same page.
Sure. Literally and figuratively.
Literally.
And figuratively.
Perhaps we'll table this question until I'll move on.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll move on, okay? During your interview with Officer Lamantia, he stressed to you that the information, at least part of the information he had as he was arriving at the scene, that Mr. Seaver had a firearm.
Yes, he did.
And he was concerned that Mr. Seaver would flee and go hurt his family.
Yes.
There was also information about this officer safety bulletin that was pushed out to everybody, correct?
Correct.
Did you review that prior to your interview with Officer Lamantia?
I'm sorry. Yes, I did review that as well.
Okay. And what is the purpose of an officer safety bulletin?
So we receive several different types of officer safety bulletins all the time. They're fairly common. But basically, sometimes they come internal from our agency, or we may receive them from outside agencies nearby. But it's to make sure that officers are aware of a specific person, or maybe a location, or maybe a vehicle that was involved in a crime, that suspect poses a risk to members of our department.
So as Officer Lamantia is driving toward this location to try to determine where Mr. Seaver is, he knows that Mr. Seaver has a gun, and he also knows that Mr. Seaver has made threats, at least on social media, to Modesto police officers, correct?
That's what he said, yes.
You just read that?
The threats were documented. The portion of the firearm is information that was given to him from family members. So he doesn't have firsthand knowledge, or hasn't actually seen the firearm, but that's what he's going on, what somebody else had told him.
Is an officer out in the field, are they supposed to question the information they get from dispatch about a person possessing a firearm?
Occasionally we do.
That was my question. Are they supposed to? Is that part of your policy and training?
Policy and training, no.
So if an officer is told through dispatch that suspect has a gun, not possibly armed, but has a gun, then it's safe to assume that the officer is going to approach this subject as if that person has a gun.
I'm sorry, I should take a step back. As far as part of our training, yes, it is part of our training to question that, at least to yourself, to consider the fact that there may not actually be a firearm involved, because there are frequently times when people say a person has a firearm. I would say the majority of the times that we respond to a call where someone's reported to be armed, they're in fact actually not.
Well, thank you for that. So my question was, if an officer approaches somebody and they're told that that person has a gun, the officer is going to be at some sort of heightened alert.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And then the person is also told that this particular subject has made threats on the Modesto Police Department officers, and not only good officers and bad officers. That also raises their threat level a little bit, correct?
Oh, for sure.
Now a good time?
Now is a great time. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we will resume this preliminary hearing at 2:00, or as soon as I get back from my military task. And please do not discuss your testimony with anybody. I'll see you back at 2:00. Thank you. And you can have a seat there, please.
Dr. Beck, when you're ready, please state your name and spell it for the record.
Sungook.
How do you pronounce that?
Beck.
Dr. Beck, are you a medical doctor?
Yes,
Are you a physician?
yes.
What is your current position?
I'm working as a forensic pathologist in Stanislaus County Sheriff Department.
What does
I'm going to use Ms. Fowler's words. She now is in a throuple. And not only does she choose to be in a throuple, and she's shacked up in the bed with the throuple. Now, if anybody thinks this is okay, I am in the wrong world.
pathologists do?
Okay, I
What the
just
forensic
needed that.
pathologist do is find out the cause of this by performing the autopsy.
It couldn't have been less appropriate.
Let's go into your background training and experience before we go into what an autopsy is. How long have you been employed as a forensic pathologist?
In my career,
Correct.
They actually put the doctor, they actually have video of the doctor coming up.
40 years
How long have you been a forensic pathologist here in Stanislaus County?
or 15 years.
And what education did you receive to become a forensic pathologist?
I graduated from medical school in February of 1970. And after I graduated from the medical school, I served in South Korean Army as a military
So you went to medical school to become a doctor, huh?
physician. After I discharged from the Army, I had internship in medicine at the Dongsan Presbyterian Hospital, DONGSA, Dongsan Presbyterian Hospital in South Korea. After I finished my internship, I came to the United States and had a residence training in pathology at the St. Joseph's Hospital in Fort Wayne, Indiana. After I finished my anatomical and clinical pathology, I went to the Strong Memorial Hospital in Rochester, New York for neuropathology training. After I finished my neuropathology training, I went to the Erie County Medical Examiners. I'm sorry, not the Erie County. Wayne County Medical Examiners of Detroit, Michigan for forensic pathology training.
Spell that.
Spelling Wayne County, W-A-Y-N-E, I think Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office in Detroit, Michigan. And I finished my forensic pathology training. I had to get the job and I worked in Erie County Medical Examiner's Office in Buffalo, New York as a medical examiner. And I am a board certified forensic pathologist and board certified anatomical pathologist.
And as a forensic pathologist here in this county, what are your typical duties?
My duty is saying find out the cause of death by performing the autopsy.
And how many autopsies have you completed throughout your career?
Probably more than 10,000 autopsies I did.
How many, I'm sorry?
More than 10,000 autopsies.
What is an autopsy?
Autopsy means examination of the dead person and find out cause of death.
Is there a particular protocol or series of steps that is your general practice when conducting an autopsy?
When we do the autopsy, we started from the external examination first, then made the incision and we examine the inside of the body.
So you do external first and then inside the body.
Yes,
That helps you determine the cause of death.
yes.
On December 29th of 2020, did you complete an autopsy of Trevor Robert Sieber? Excuse me, December 30th of 2020, did you complete an autopsy of Trevor Robert Sieber?
Yes, I did.
And during that autopsy, did you follow your typical protocol?
Yes, I did.
And I believe you said the first step is an external examination.
Yes.
What does that consist of?
External examination is
Oops. I don't want to ruin this, but the doctor does come to the conclusion that the bullets that went through the victim led to his death.
Examined from the top of the head and to the.
And did you,
Yes.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes.
What were you gonna say?
The external examination started from head to foot. And is there any evidence of injuries? We described it again.
Did you complete an external examination of Mr. Sieber?
Yes.
And what did you find during the external examination of Mr. Sieber?
During the external examination, I found that there were 3 gunshot wounds. 1 gunshot wound was located in the left chest, and the other gunshot wound was located in the right side of the abdomen, and the other gunshot wound was located on the back.
So let's break that down a little bit. Let's first start off with the wound to the chest. And I might have missed it, but where was that located? Left side?
That was the left side of the chest.
And were you able to take measurements of that?
From the location?
Right.
Yes. That entrance wound was located 19.5 inch from top of the head and 2 inch from midline to the left.
Were you able to determine an entrance size?
Size was about, I believe it was just a moment. Can I look at my autopsy report?
If it would refresh your recollection to look at your autopsy
Yeah,
report.
thank you. Yes, that was entrance wound was measured half of an inch in diameter.
Did you notice any gunpowder at the entrance?
There was no gunpowder.
Now, did you determine what the bullet penetrated?
Yes, that bullet penetrated the left 7th rib, apex of the heart, left lung, left 8th intercostal space, and the bullet was located in the left side of the back at the level of 19 inch from top of the head and 6 inch from midline from the to the left.
Your Honor, 1 second. So, if I heard you correctly, the bullet penetrated the left 7th rib, apex of the heart, left lung, left 8 intercostal space. Is that what I heard?
Yow.
And the bullet was located
That's what we call a kill shot.
19 inch from top of the head and 6 inch from midline to the left.
Were you able to determine the bullet path?
Yes, the bullet traveled from right to left, front to back, horizontally.
Now, moving on to the gunshot that you mentioned to the abdomen.
The gunshot wound to the abdomen, the entrance wound was located 23 inch from top of the head and 7 inch from midline to the right. And
Sorry, Dr. Beck said, how many inches? The first one.
23 inch from top of the head. And yes,
7, he said, from.
7 inch
midline to
from
the right.
midline to the left. I'm sorry, midline to the right.
That's what I heard.
Were you able to determine the entrance size of that?
That entrance wound was measures half of an inch by 3/4 of an inch.
And did you notice any gunpowder at that entrance?
No, there was no gunpowder.
What did the bullet penetrate there?
The bullet penetrates right 9th rib, right lung,
No, it does,
Liver.
Cindy. It really does.
mesentery, and the bullet is located in the right side of the back at the level of 23 inch from top of the head and 2 inches from midline to the right.
2 inches from the midline right?
Yes,
Just so that I have it right. So penetrated the right ninth rib, right lung, liver,
mesentery.
mesentery, MESENTERY.
Yes,
The bullet was located to the right side of the back at the level of 23 inches from the top of the head and 2 inches from the midline. Correct?
yes,
Just to clear something up for the record. When I asked you about where the wound was located, where was it located? And we're talking about the abdomen.
abdomen. That was 23 inches from top of the head and 7 inches from midline to the right. There is a typographical mistake. This is another 2 inches. It was 7 inches.
So that's what I needed to clear out.
Yeah.
So you're saying 7 inches, in your report it says 2 inches, but it was actually
Yes,
7.
that was.
Thank you. Oh. Did you find the bullet?
Yes.
Where was it now?
The bullet was located in the 23 inches from top of the head and 2 inches from midline to the right posteriorly.
Did you determine the bullet path?
Yes, the bullet traveled right to left, front to back, and horizontally.
Moving on to the wound that you mentioned, the back. Can you describe in detail where you located that?
Yes, the right side of the back, 26 inches from top of the head and 2 inches from midline to the right shows an entrance of bullet wound that measures half of an inch in diameter.
Did you find gunpowder at that entrance?
No,
Did you determine what the bullet penetrated?
that bullet penetrates the right 11th intercostal space, mesentery, intestine, and the bullet is located in the abdomen at the level of 28 inches from top of the head and 3 inches from midline to the right.
Were you able to determine the bullet path?
Yes, the bullet traveled from back to front, right to left, and slightly downward.
So you mentioned, sorry, did that complete the external examination?
Yes,
You mentioned that the next step is an internal examination. What is an internal examination?
internal examination means that
We have video.
after external examination, I made an incision on the chest and abdomen and opened the chest cavity and abdominal cavity and examined the inside of the organs inside of the body.
Did you complete an internal examination for this case?
Yes,
Do an internal examination. What systems internally are you looking at? Yep.
all of the organs
So,
I examined.
so for example, the cardiovascular system, are you looking to that?
Yes,
The respiratory system?
yes.
So let's kind of go through some of the stuff in your report. What, if anything, did you know about the cardiovascular system?
In the cardiovascular system, I found that there was a bullet wound in the heart, apex of the heart.
Is that the only thing that you noted about that?
I believe so.
What, if anything, did you note about the respiratory system?
Respiratory system, I found that both lungs has a bullet wound.
Both lungs?
Yes,
Did you move on to the gastrointestinal tract?
yes, I did. I found there was in small intestine showed penetrating bullet wound and the mesentery showed penetrating bullet wound.
What, if anything, did you note about the liver?
The liver shows a penetrating bullet wound.
Did that complete your internal examination?
No, I examined the spleen, pancreas, and the genitourinary system, and the organ in the neck, endocrine system, head and the musculoskeletal system. I examined every organ.
Did you make any findings as to that?
No, the other organs,
I'm sorry, what was that?
the other organ doesn't show any injuries.
So there was no injuries located on any of the other organs.
That's right.
So based on your internal and
Bill,
external
that's
examination
exactly what was going through my mind.
training and experience, were you able to determine a cause of death?
Yes.
What was the cause of death?
He died of blood loss due to gunshot wound to the chest, abdomen, and the back.
And I just want to clarify the cause of death. Did I hear you correctly? It's a gunshot wound to the chest, abdomen, and back?
Yes.
Yep, that did it.
Due to blood loss, due to the
Oh, yes, blood
gunshot
loss.
wounds.
That's right.
That's further.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
I have a copy of a report, and I was following along with you to the best of my ability on some of the dimensions that you'd stated. I'm going to need some help, though.
Yes.
So on your report, and do you have your report before you, sir?
Yes.
You have and I'm looking at the, approach briefly.
You may.
So I'm looking at the page that shows the front sketch, front of the body.
Yes.
He really kind of is, Tammy.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And you have a dark circle that I am confident is a indication of a bullet wound,
Yes.
and it has an A next to it.
Yes.
So can you help me with the dimensions of where A is located in relation to the top of the head?
A was located 19.5 inches from top of the head and 2 inches from midline to the left.
So we have the number 19.5, comma 2. The 2 is from the midline.
Yes.
Okay. Then the same with B, we have 23, comma 7. So that's 23 inches from the top of the head, 7 inches from midline.
Yes.
Thank you. And C is a circle, so C is actually the location of where that bullet stopped inside the body, correct?
But that bullet was that is the location of the bullet from the back.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So the dimension was,
That was located 28 inches from top of the head and 3 inches from midline to
okay,
the.
so that's 3. And then if we could please go to the back image.
Yes.
That would be 39. Yeah, 389. Did I say 39? 389. No, he doesn't. I'm just telling him. So again, we're going to start with it'd be the circle that's on the left side of this image,
Yes.
closest to the top of the head.
Yes.
What does that circle indicate?
That circle is the location of the bullet.
And so following your dimensions, it's 19 inches from the top of the head and 6 inches from midline?
Yes.
Thank you. And then we have the next, it looks like a circle. And this is what I'm having trouble reading. Can you give us the dimensions of that one?
Okay, that was 23 inches from top of the head and 2 inches from midline to the right.
Was that the top?
Top of the head,
Okay.
is 23 inches from top of the head.
So that's where the bullet
Location.
is located.
Yes.
I don't have the graph in front of me. I'm just comparing it to the notes that I've taken. Thank you.
And then lastly, it looks like right below that one or pretty close below that one is a solid circle that is indicating an entrance wound, correct?
That's right.
And the dimensions on that, 26 and 2?
Yeah.
So when you were asked the question of the path of the bullet, and let's start with, you don't have them numbered on the back, but on the front you have them numbered A, B, and C. How did you determine the path of bullet A?
Bullet A.
Yes, sir.
That was entrance to the left chest. Yes, when I opened the chest, I found that the bullet penetrate the left 7th rib and the apex of the heart, left lung,
Thanks,
and
Ben.
the left 8th intercostal space. And the bullet was located in the left side of the back, 19 inches from top of the head.
So when I know you opened the chest cavity and you're looking for damage caused by a bullet, correct?
Yes,
When you're saying the bullet struck those items, the rib, let me make sure I get it correctly, Doctor. 7th rib, apex of the heart, left lung. Are you indicating that that's damage to those areas?
Yes.
The reason I'm asking is you have no way of knowing the position of the person's body when the bullet struck them, do you?
I have no idea.
And so you're looking, I'm assuming, at damage to those areas following the entry wound, correct?
Yes.
Did you account for any deflection off the rib?
Deflection of the no, the bullet penetrated only one left semicircle.
So did it penetrate the rib?
Yeah, that struck the rib.
Did it break the rib?
Yes, penetrate the right rib.
Okay, so I'm trying to visualize. So we have a rib, and it's actually a hole through it.
That I cannot remember. You could penetrate the hole through or damage from the rib.
You were asked how many autopsies you've done. It sounds like you've done thousands of autopsies.
Yes.
Can you give us an estimate of how many autopsies you've done involving bullet wounds?
Probably more than 10,000. I'm sorry, 1,000.
Okay. In your experience of doing those autopsies involving bullet wounds, have you ever seen bullets deflect off bone?
Yes.
Okay. Did the path that you indicated, did you account for deflection off of that rib?
Yes.
Okay. Did the bullet take a straight path, or did, after it hit the deflection of the rib, did it move in a different
It
area?
looks like it penetrated straight.
Right through?
Yes.
Okay. Same questions with B. Was there any deflection that you noticed with bullet B?
So I don't know which one is A, B, and C.
Oh.
I'm assuming A is the left chest, and B is the right side of the abdomen, and C is the back. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
The corporate length we can have.
It's up to you. I just want to, I have it noted. This is
It would
fine,
be easier for the court to follow along.
and that's fine with me.
That would be great. You have that, I don't know, the computer.
Are you sure?
Well,
I have a copy of the sheet.
okay.
We'll make it.
Yeah, 'cause that has highlighted on it. Thank you.
Is anybody going to ask for it to be admitted in evidence, or is this just demonstrative for me?
I'll submit it.
Okay, so we'll have it marked when you get back. Rebecca, that's going to be admitted as defense exhibit.
Okay,
So if you could just get it marked.
okay.
And there's no objection to the court receiving it in
None.
evidence. And it's defense exhibit A, is that the,
That'll be,
Yes.
do you have anything else marked already?
okay, I already have pre-marked, at least for me, A, B, C, D, and E.
If there's no objection, we can make it people's. Thank you for that. And just next.
Next in order.
So Doctor, we've discussed what you have indicated as A. I was talking about B. And with respect to B, that looks like it would be your indication of a gunshot wound to the abdomen.
Yes.
And that bullet also struck a rib, says the 9th rib.
Yes.
Did you account, did that bullet deflect at all when it hit the rib?
But I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Can I ask another, I want to interrupt you for a second. In the graph, this is People's Exhibit 18, there are some circles that are filled in and there are circles that are not filled in.
Yeah.
What does a filled in circle signify?
Solid circle and mark that black.
Yes,
That's the entrance wound.
okay, and then the circle that's not filled in,
The circle is, empty circle is location of the bullet.
okay. Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Wilson. I'm sorry to
Thank
interrupt you.
You know, before I ask about, I was going to ask about the 3rd bullet here that you have marked C. I'd like to direct your attention though to the back. The solid circle that you've already just told the judge it's designates an entrance wound. correct?
Yes.
You have a little, it looks like a little C. Is that a C below that?
Yes.
Okay. Which of the 2 open circles is A and which is B?
Open circle A is 19 inches from top of the head and 6 inches from midline to the left. That is an entrance wound on the chest. That bullet is related. That wound is related with A bullet wound.
So I'm going to ask you now about the bullet wound that you've identified as a gunshot wound to the back. And it appears that that particular bullet did not hit any bone. Am I reading that correctly?
Let me see. That's right. That's right.
That's right. Doctor, do you have any way of determining the sequence of the bullets?
I don't know.
No, okay. In doing your evaluation or your autopsy, is there any way that you can determine whether or not the person that was struck with the bullet is stationary or is moving at the time they were struck?
I have no idea.
When you're doing the autopsy, I know that, pardon me, you looked at all the internal organs, you said that,
Yes.
correct? Did you also do a toxicology screen?
Yes.
Can you tell us first off, why do you do a toxicology screen?
The purpose of toxicology is if the person consumed any illegal drugs or medication.
Okay, illegal drugs and medication, and how would that information inform your cause of death conclusion?
Cause of this, that's our routine procedure. If the deceased has any illegal drugs, consuming any illegal drugs.
Okay, and why is that important? Why is that part of your procedure?
The procedure, he was in the normal status or under influence of some drugs.
Do you know which drugs you actually tested for? And doctor, it looks like you're looking at some documents. If you could
Yes.
please identify for all of us which document you're looking at to refresh your memory.
Yeah, this is a toxicology report from the Central Valley Toxicology Incorporation.
And when did you receive this toxicology report?
When I received that, after I finished the autopsy, probably a couple of days later, I received this.
And the question I asked you that prompted you to look at that was what drugs did you test for, doctor?
The toxicology report indicating he consumed the cocaine.
And it says cocaine metabolite, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us when he consumed cocaine?
When he consumed?
Yes, sir.
Before he died, he consumed it. That's all I can say.
That's all you can say, though. You
Yes.
don't know when.
I don't know.
I noticed that there was no test result for marijuana. Did you not test for marijuana?
Oh, they did it routinely, but probably the deceased did not have the marijuana.
No marijuana.
No marijuana.
So I'm looking at the Central Valley Toxicology Report, and there's this long word that I'm going to try to pronounce. Well, I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Let me look here. It's benzo.
Yeah, benzoylecgonine.
Thank you. What is that?
That is a metabolite of the cocaine.
That isn't.
Yes.
Okay, and you stated something that I'm a little confused. You said that there was no marijuana found in the toxicology screen, or they didn't test for it?
I believe they did not find it.
And what makes you say that, doctor?
They did routinely, they did it.
Okay.
Do you know which drugs they routinely test for?
Oh, that I don't know. There are so many drugs.
Okay,
Okay.
I think that was the original question.
I'm going to ask you to look at the toxicology report, and it states right under results, it says routine drug screen,
Yes.
and it says, like you described earlier, cocaine metabolite,
Yes.
no opiates. So
Yes.
that means they tested for opiates but found none, correct?
Yes.
Amphetamines, barbiturates, benzodiazepines, methadone, fentanyl, bicyclic antidepressants, another word that I'm going to struggle with, carisoprodol,
Yes.
or PCP detected. That indicates to me that they tested for those chemicals and didn't find any, but it doesn't indicate to me that they tested for marijuana because it doesn't say it's negative.
I don't know, but you should ask the toxicology.
Okay. Then it says no ethyl alcohol or acetone detected. Ethyl alcohol is what?
I don't know.
Just ethyl alcohol, he didn't drink it.
Drink as in like liquor?
No, he
Beer?
did not drink the alcohol. I don't know what kind of ethyl alcohol he did drink.
Did you examine Mr. Seaver's clothing?
Closing.
Dr. Beck, when you're done, just make sure you identify what documents you've looked at to refresh your
Yes.
recollection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No, I didn't see any description about the closing. Probably the clothes was take off by the emergency treatment team.
Okay, so when you were doing your autopsy, part of your process is, in this case, you did not examine any clothing.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. That's all I have.
May I redirect?
Yes, briefly. So this got brought up across, Doctor, metabolites. What does that mean?
Metabolite is breakdown the substance occur while breaking down.
So when you're looking at metabolites, is that something that's still active in your system?
I believe it's still active.
What do you mean by active?
That means still can cause under influence of that drug.
And are you looking for its effectiveness when you're doing for a tox screen?
Yep.
And in this specific case, was there notes made about the effective level?
Effective level, even it is low, I think it's still under influence of that drug.
So looking at the tox screen, the report that you have in front of you, it mentions that cocaine metabolite was detected.
Yes.
Okay. And then when looking at the effective level, it says non-active. Why does it say non-active? Are you looking at the
Okay.
Central Valley Toxicology report?
Yes.
Okay, so towards the bottom it says effective level, non-active.
It's not active. That means that the level of the benzorecomine
For the record,
is not active. They said, but potentially toxic level is 1 to 10 milligram.
and here the benzo, I'm going to spell it just to make life easier. BE
Yeah, benzorecomine.
COLYCGONINE. That's a cocaine metabolite,
Yes.
and it's found to be 0.65 milligrams per liter,
Yes.
and that is less than the toxic level of 1 to 10 milligrams per liter.
That's right.
And here in this case, it was found to be non-active.
I think it's still active. Still can influence the body function.
How so?
How soon? I don't know. It is not as good as without the cocaine, without any drug. But if somebody has a benzorecomine levels, that means that still it can affect the body function.
When you say body, it affects body function. What does that mean?
But thinking, moving, anything still can influence, I believe.
And you were asked about whether or not you examined clothing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you did this examination, didn't you do it on a body that was naked? And it should be
Oh yes, the body was naked.
on the first page of your report, correct?
Yes,
So it came to you that way.
That's
Your
right.
recollection. Is that right?
that's right.
Nothing further. Thank you.
May we
Just some
cross?
follow-up.
Doctor, you stated that as part of your examination, you do a toxicology report, or excuse me, you can at least consider the toxicology report, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Do you know when and this was a blood test, I believe, do you know when the blood was drawn from Mr. Seaver that was sent to?
blood was drawn at the time of autopsy.
Okay, so you drew the blood on, it's like December 30th?
Just a moment, just a moment.
So after all that, the body was both naked and dead.
Can you tell us, please, Doctor, what you're referring to?
Okay, just a moment. The date drawn at the time of autopsy, I drawn. So, autopsy time, December 30th.
Ben's always been fancy
So are
pants.
you looking at your report?
My autopsy report.
Okay, in answering that question, thank you.
And your autopsy was December 30th.
Yes.
You know when the time of death was for Mr. Seaver?
Time was December 29th.
Okay. And so you drew blood, looks like the following day.
Ben's offering to lay some pipe
I
here.
believe so.
And even the following day, we have cocaine metabolites. And I know you can't tell us when it was used, the cocaine, but sometime prior to death, there was cocaine use.
That's right.
Thank you, Doc.
Any additional questions, Mr. Radoza?
No, thank you.
All right, may this witness be excused.
Thank you.
Dr. Beck, your responsibilities to testify here have now concluded. You may go about your day. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
Do you have Sergeant Reeves here?
Here, Your Honor.
It's up to you. We have 35 more minutes.
I mean, it's easy to criticize. I think both attorneys did fine, but you do have to, as an attorney, I've done it. You have to ask really dumb things because you're trying to get them in the record. But I actually like this witness. He had a bit of an accent, but he didn't go beyond what he knew. But even when he's fielding questions like, "Okay, so what were you looking for on the other side of the entrance wound?" I don't know. The damage caused and maybe the bullet. I mean, he's got an hour of that kind of thing.
I'll leave that to Mr. Wilson. Sure, I think we can get 30 minutes. We can do something.
Okay. All right, Sergeant Reeves, if you could take the stand once again. I'll remind you again that you're under oath.
Yes, sir.
All right, we got the singer of Santa Monica coming back on here.
You may proceed.
I'm over here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I wanted to follow up on some questions, and I apologize, I may have asked them earlier, I just got the call. Officer Lamantia asked for the officer safety bulletin on this receiver to be sent out again, correct?
Correct.
And did you review that officer safety bulletin with Officer Lamantia?
Did I review it with him?
Yes, during your examination.
I don't recall if we looked at it or not.
Did you look at it as part of your investigation?
I did.
You know why Officer Lamantia asked for those safety bulletins to be put down?
He explained, well, I don't remember if he explained this, but I can assume it's because it's important for people responding to the call to be aware of who they're preparing to encounter. I don't remember if he said that during the interview, but that's my
That's
assumption.
your understanding of an officer safety bulletin?
Yes.
And I don't recall, but did Officer Lamantia explain to you what about the officer safety bulletin that kind of piqued his interest or raised his alert level?
Yes. That it was so specific towards threats towards Modesto police officers.
Do you recall exactly what he said about that?
He recalled what the bulletin said, something to the effect of, all I want for Christmas is a dead MPD cop or something to that effect. And there was another phrase, a good cop is a dead cop, something to that effect.
Your officer safety bulletins also list the prior arrest of the individual that's the subject of the bulletin.
Most of the time they do.
You recall what the prior arrests were that were listed on this bulletin?
I don't remember.
If you were to see the bulletin, would that refresh your recollection?
Yes, it would. Okay, I'm finished.
Do you recognize this as being the officer safety bulletin that Officer Lamantia asked dispatch to push out to the other officers?
Yes, it is.
And is this a true and accurate copy of that same bulletin?
Yes.
There's a photograph here of Mr. Seaver, correct?
Yes, there is.
Then in bold, next to the word suspect, it says has prior for 422. You see that?
I do.
Can you tell us what a 422 is?
Criminal threats.
And is criminal threats considered a strike offense? Objection relevance.
So overruled. I can take judicial notice of what a 422 is, and that it's a strike.
And the other prior is 245A1.
Assault with a deadly weapon.
Then we have 23152, that's DUI, correct?
DUI.
What's a 148?
Resisting arrest, basically, or obstruction of police officer.
594 vandalism.
Vandalism.
523. What is that?
It's not coming to my mind right now. Got to look it up.
Take a moment, Judge, look at it.
I want to get it right. I don't want to, yes. $523 is extortion.
Thank you, Judge. You mentioned this, Sergeant, correct? You're Sergeant.
I am, yes.
Yeah, so I just want to be sure you're right. You mentioned this during the previous question that part of this officer safety bulletin states, in quotes, a good cop is a dead cop, right?
Yes, it does.
And it also in quotes, all I want for Christmas is another dead MPD officer that's the Modesto Police Department.
I'm assuming, yes.
And under additional, there is a statement here about Beaver has claimed to be a member of the Hells Angels. Then there's some numbers next to it. What are the numbers?
That is a police report number, and being that it starts with an S, it should be a sheriff's department case number.
So the information that's listed under additional where it has these numbers, that's the source of that information that's placed on this officer safety bulletin?
Yes.
There is a bullet pointed item here that says Seaver has been violent, argumentative, and uncooperative while drunk. Correct?
Yes, it says that.
And then in one incident, Seaver resisted arrest and kicked the right rear window of a police officer's vehicle. Well, inside the vehicle.
Correct.
And down at the bottom, it says action. And is it correct for me to say that this is basically the directive that the officer safety bulletin is given to the officers out in the field?
Yes, that's pretty consistent with what they usually say on them.
Please exercise caution if Seaver is contacted.
Yes. Well, not specifically to Seaver, but it'll say exercise caution if whoever the bulletin's about is contacted.
And this bulletin is about Seaver.
Right.
It says, please send any information to DET. I'm assuming that's the detective.
Yes.
Okay, let's screw this name up. Arguelles.
Arguelles.
Arguelles?
Yeah.
Do you know who a detective Arguelles is?
I do. He's now retired.
Prosecution case.
And Detective Arguelles, what, he retired from your department?
Yes, he did.
He is the person tasked with doing these, or does he have a special assignment? I'm not sure how these are developed.
Yes. His assignment was to, I don't remember his exact title, but basically, anytime that we received threats regarding individuals on the streets, workplace violence, school place violence, he was the detective that handled those types of cases.
During your interview of Officer Lamantia, there was a line of questioning regarding, I believe it was Officer Mesa getting into a traffic accident.
Yes.
Can you just tell us what Officer Lamantia said about that issue?
Sure. He said as he rounded the corner, he saw Detective Mesa pushing his unmarked police vehicle out of the roadway, and he stopped briefly just to make sure that they were okay. Officer Lamantia stopped briefly to make sure everybody was okay, and then he proceeded to continue down Woodland.
Where was this traffic accident?
At the intersection of Carpenter Road and Woodland Avenue. So just down the road to the east a ways from where the incident of the shooting.
So Officer Lamantia sees another officer pushing a car out of the road and stops briefly.
Correct.
This is an unmarked car, correct?
The detective is in the unmarked car, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Officer Lamantia is driving a marked car.
Correct.
So Detective Meza is in an unmarked car, and Officer Lamantia told you that he had actually called Detective Meza on his cell phone to tell him about some information about this call for service, correct?
Yes.
And he did that because he knew that Detective Meza didn't have an NDC, a computer in his car.
Yes, that's what he explained.
Well, did you confirm that?
That he didn't have an MDC?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I did not ever confirm it, but our detective vehicles are not equipped the same way our marked police vehicles are. They don't have computers in their cars.
Okay, so when you said that that's what Officer Lamantia told you, you had no reason to doubt that.
No.
Did Officer Lamantia explain to you why he thought it would be beneficial for an unmarked car to patrol the area looking for Mr. Seaver?
Yes, he did.
And what did he tell you about that?
He explained that the unmarked cars have the potential to get into the area without being detected by the suspects that they're looking for as easily. And so that was the benefit. They can actually get eyes on.
And that was important in this situation because Officer Lamantia knew that Mr. Seaver, through this bulletin, had some animosity toward the SOPD officers, correct?
I'm sorry, can you answer your question again?
Probably not. So I'll try it again.
Okay, I apologize.
Do you recall Officer Lamantia explaining to you that he believed it was important for an unmarked car to go through that area looking for Mr. Seaver because Mr. Seaver had made threats, at least on the bulletin, against the SOPD officers?
Okay, I don't remember if he specifically made that correlation, but I can assume that that's why he felt that that would be important, yes.
That'd be important to you?
Yes, it would.
So Officer Lamantia, during the first interview, which you established was 21 hours after the shooting, correct?
Yes.
He explained to you that dispatch called to ask for somebody to respond to this call for service, and that he did because there appeared to be no one else available.
Yes, nobody else was answering up on the radio. And then he also mentioned the dispatcher's voice sounding concerned.
The information that Officer Lamantia had was that the sister reported that the brother had purchased a firearm the night before, correct?
Yes.
And that he was on his way on foot to their residence.
Yes.
And Officer Lamatia's recollection was that he reported through the sister from the brothers that you're not going to like what's going to happen when I get there.
Correct.
Officer Lamantia understood that to be that a threat that he was going to inflict some sort of harm on the family, correct?
Yes.
Officer Lamantia explained to you that, to the best of his recollection, he had no prior contacts with Mr. Seaver, correct?
Correct.
And that he, in fact, did not know the family.
Correct.
He also heard the dispatch explain that Mr. Seaver had reported to his family that the door to the home was unlocked and that he had vandalized the home.
Correct, he did.
Do you recall where Officer Lamantia was when he received that update?
I don't remember.
During your earlier examination before we broke for the noon lunch, you made a statement regarding dispatch, information on dispatch. Is there a policy that says that officers are supposed to question what information dispatch gives them?
Question it? No.
Why is it?
I mean, they're the first line of obtaining information, and we have to rely on them to relay pertinent information to us.
In fact, you do rely on what they tell you, correct?
Yes.
So back to Detective Meza had his car crash. Officer Lamantia explained to you that he had called on his personal cell phone or the department cell phone made so that he would know kind of the area where this incident was occurring because he didn't have a computer, right?
Correct.
And that he believed it would be important for an unmarked vehicle to get eyes on the suspect so that we could possibly take the suspect into custody.
Correct.
Officer Lamantia explained to you that as he entered the church and drove on that curved pathway, he was approaching this area next to the alcove. And it's been described as a choke point. You recall that?
Yes.
Is that your phrase or is that Officer Lamantia's phrase, the choke point?
I believe he said that, and I remember him saying that the buildings collapsed on the roadway.
So basically the roadway narrowed a bit, correct?
Yes.
At that time, had he seen Mr. Seaver?
As
As he's approaching, that question. As he's approaching the structure, had he seen Mr. Seaver?
Mwahaha.
And he explained to you that he was concerned about an ambush. Do you recall that?
yes, I do.
And it's his statement to you that he was concerned that an ambush could be possible, right?
Yes.
Do you understand what an ambush is?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us what you understand to be an ambush?
Basically, when for example, an officer would be in a position of disadvantage where you're entering a spot where a suspect could be hiding. You don't know where they're located, and that they can strike first or attack you before you have an opportunity to respond.
And let's just lay the groundwork here. Officer Lamantia is driving through this location because he believes that's where Mr. Seaver is, correct?
I believe he said that he knew that Mr. Seaver was in the area of the church because that's where he was last seen, but I don't recall him saying that he knew that he would be in that choke point area.
And then that was a bad question of mine. He drove into the churchyard or church campus, let's call it, because he believed that's where Mr. Seaver was last located.
Yes,
He hadn't seen Mr. Seaver yet as he's driving toward this choke point.
correct.
And he's concerned because, as you described, if he comes around the corner and Mr. Seaver happens to be in this alcove and Mr. Seaver has a gun, which he believes that he could be ambushed, correct?
Yes,
Either you or Mr. Fainter? That was
Sergeant Fainter, yes.
Sergeant Fainter, that's Fainter. One of you asked Mr. Officer Lamantia, why didn't you stop the car and back up? You recall that?
I do.
So if Officer Lamantia drives up and sees Mr. Seaver, who he believes to have a gun, and stops the car back up, what do you think is going to happen?
It depends on, that could depend on a lot of things. So I remember Sergeant Fainter and also Lamantia discussing where on a car you have cover protection. And they discuss, I remember Lamantia discussing axles, the engine, as being good cover. And then also they discussed the ballistic door panels, and Lamantia was not 100% certain if his car was equipped with those or not. So I remember Sergeant Fainter asking him about backing up, because if he backed up, now his engine, it would be between himself and the suspect that was potentially attacking him. So that would give him a position of cover.
Officer Lamantia seated in the driver's seat of this vehicle, correct?
Right.
Okay, the windshield is not going to provide any protection to it.
No, he specifically talked about the glass and the windshield providing no protection.
So, and it was a poorly worded question on my part asking you what could have happened. Is it possible that if Officer Lamantia drives into this alcove area where it's squeezed and Mr. Seaver has a firearm and wants to use it, it is possible that Officer Lamantia can be shot, correct?
Yes.
So Officer Lamantia opted to drive away and go forward and position his car so that he could at least get some sort of concealment, correct?
Yes.
Officer Lamantia explained to you that the engine block and perhaps the axle could provide some cover protection, but that a vehicle is not very good for cover, correct?
He did
That's
say
the
that.
Oprah of anything.
That's because an individual, in fact, in this case, he believed that Mr. Seaver had actually, after he drove forward, expected to see Mr. Seaver at his door when you opened the door, correct?
Yes.
And Officer Lamantia explained to you that he moved forward trying to get some position away from Mr. Seaver to at least give himself some time to get out of the car because he was at a tactical disadvantage, correct?
Yes.
And by getting out of the car quickly, he at least hoped to be able to maneuver and get some concealment from Mr. Seaver. Is that correct?
I don't know if he mentioned having concealment, but he did talk about the fact that that would provide him a fighting chance at that point.
He also explained to you that tactically, when somebody is approaching a car, I'm saying somebody is a bad person and they have a firearm, that everything is moving quickly, and so as the one person moves around the car, at least getting out of the car, Officer Lamantia can outmaneuver himself around the car, correct?
Yes, that's also why he canted his car, he explained, is that gave him even an extra second, he believed.
Then Officer Lamantia explained to you that when he opened the door, he was surprised to see that Mr. Seaver was not there, correct?
Yes.
So he had lost sight of him for a second. Yes.
Yes.
And I believe you explained that, or excuse me, he explained to you that then he decided to run around the corner to try to locate Mr. Seaver.
Yes, I remember him saying he wasn't certain if he caught a glimpse of Seaver as he rounded that corner, or if by the fact that he wasn't there, he just assumed that he had made that corner. But so it was one of those two things. But yes, that's when he went to that corner.
And that's a good point. He didn't really know exactly where Mr. Seaver was, correct?
Correct.
So, and you're familiar with the church. You've been out there, right?
I have.
So, was there a way for Mr. Seaver to actually go back through the alcove?
No, I believe it's all enclosed.
So if Mr. Seaver does go around the corner and is running across this grassy area that we all know about now toward the trees, what is beyond those trees?
That I'm pretty sure is their main sanctuary, and so just behind the trees is a really large stucco wall.
Yeah, I'm going to show you what I'm going to receive this People's 11 things. I'll deal with that, yeah.
Okay.
People's 11 shows part of the alcove, correct?
Yes.
And I don't know the side. There looks like there's an officer standing off in the distance. Correct?
Yes, there is.
Is that officer standing on the drive path that Officer Lamantia took?
Yes, just on the edge of it.
And so that drive path actually goes out to the street?
Yes, so that photo's kind of looking in a westbound direction, and right about where that officer's standing, the road will curve and go to the south towards Woodland.
And Woodland is the main street that the other church is on down the way.
Yes.
Down the road a little ways, right?
It's basically across the street catty corner at the intersection from where this church is.
Okay, so this church, what's the name of this church again?
I don't remember.
Okay. You know the name of the other church?
No.
Okay. So
I could look it up. I know we have.
those two, you've been to both churches?
I don't believe I ever went to the one that was across the street. I mean, it might have been called New Hope or something to that effect.
How do you know where it's located?
I've seen it. I just didn't go on the property.
You estimate, you said it was across the street in Catty Corner,
Yes.
across what road?
Across Woodland. So this church is on the north side of Woodland. The other church is on the south side. And there's an eastern road that borders this church. And the other church where the family was reportedly located is on the east side of that road. So basically southeast of this church. That makes sense.
Do you recall Officer Lamantia explaining he believed it was about 200 yards?
That sounds correct. That sounds familiar.
So other than the path that goes out to Woodland, do you know what's on the other side of the structure that you identified? That there was a big building back there, the main sanctuary?
I think it was. And then on the south side of that building, there's another kind of a grassy area with some shrubs and some trees, and then the sidewalk on the north side of Woodland Avenue.
Mr. Olson, maybe this is a good time to break.
What about the question?
That's fine. We're getting close because I want to discuss scheduling also.
Sure. At this time, I ask that Exhibit A be received into evidence.
No objection? Any objection? It's received.
That's the final question.
Oh, easy enough.
That's the final request.
All right, so Sergeant Reeves, are you available on Monday?
Oh, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you can step down now. Okay, just want to make sure that
Oh, good Lord.
is likely to be Monday, that we can.
He's still
I
not
don't
done.
know how many more witnesses that people have, but I'm inquiring.
There would be one after Sergeant Reeves.
And then there are some defense witnesses. Can you tell me the number they are or their expected length of testimony? Give me some sort of feel for what that case in chief's going to look like.
One witness is going to be long. He's an expert witness. Oh, thank you very much. Then I have 4 other witnesses that I have subpoenaed. Don't know if I'm going to call all of them. Those are probably going to be 30 minutes each.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is return on Monday. That will be, I'm going to say 9:30. I think that's better rather than have you wait around here. So Monday, November 28th at 9:30. And the other thing I wanted to discuss with council is that my inclination is to order, instead of hearing closing arguments, to order briefing. So I'm just letting you know that in advance.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You can formulate your arguments in the law that you want me to rely on and the facts that you want me to rely on. Do it in writing. I think it'll be more efficient that way.
When do you want that, Judge?
Well, I'll just want it. We can discuss that when the case is, when everybody has,
I assume we'll set some future date and then we'll set dates to.
for ruling, yes.
We'll set a ruling date, but then we'll set dates for us.
I'll set some briefing schedules and then I'll set a date for ruling, but I'll work with you on your schedules.
The other thing that raised to my attention was, are we going to have the transcripts so that we can rely on the transcripts for our brief?
That would be a good idea.
Well, if that will work for me. Mr. Lamantia is out of custody, so I don't think that's as much a pressing concern. So we will work around that issue also.
Okay.
So I'm just letting you know that that's what my inclination is, and I'm likely to order that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So we'll see you all back on Monday. Have a nice Thanksgiving, everyone. And again,
All right, I'm on. There you have it. I thought that was interesting. I left the scheduling on. You see that they're going to be up on Monday. And that's rough because I got stuff. I'm going to try to grab it, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to. That's where we are. But I'm fascinated by this one because we've got a police officer who shot somebody. They died. We had the 100-year-old doctor come on and say, yeah, those 4 bullets that went through his vital organs, that's probably what did it. That's the way I'm seeing it. Do you know the order? No, I don't. Do you know if the body was moving? No, I don't. You know what would probably be helpful? You guys have body cam footage of it. You could take a look at that. Which I have not seen. If you're going by testimony, I think they've established that. I think they've established a good defense on testimony alone. But I'm hearing from a lot of the people that have seen the body cam, and it does not look good for the officer. I'm getting very varying reports, but at least some people really think it looks bad and unjustified. And when you see that, and that is huge. If you've got that and you can lay a foundation and everyone agrees that that is a video of the event and it doesn't come in good for you, well, that makes things difficult. That can overcome all this testimony because you're seeing an actual video of the event. So I'm going to try to hunt that down and take a look at it. I might even show it on here at some point. I know this one's long, but I got into it. This one was kind of a weird project. I thought, it's a weekend. We can go on a weird project. I know it's not the usual thing. It's not as much fun, although you guys still started making me laugh. My biggest, I'm not that bad. I'm not in my usual bubbly mood, but that it's literally more a lack of caffeine and some annoying things hanging over me next week, all of which will be fine. But like, I'm just not in my best mood, but really, really an extra cup of coffee would have made the difference. So that's where we are. And you see the other interesting thing is she's going to have them brief, which makes sense because a lot of this is law argument. And if you're doing that, you don't want oral argument because it's just sloppy. You want cites to the law that you're citing. So she's the finder of fact and law in this circumstance in the prelim. If you go to a jury, then the jury is the finder of fact and the judge is the finder of law. But she's the finder of both fact and law in a prelim, and that would make more sense. So it would be sort of interesting to see a closing argument from both sides, but you're not going to see it. You're not going to see it. And you heard her say she's going to give them time. And then they said, we want transcripts of this damn thing. It really what they should do, it'd be a lot faster than getting transcripts, is they should just watch Law Talk with Mike. You know, that's it. And also, it's also more entertaining. But we've got at least another day. The defense hasn't started their case for this prelim. She asked him, he said, I've got an expert that's going to take a long time. And I've got 4 other witnesses. I'm making this up, but my guess is he only gets 2 of those. He subpoenaed 4. That's typical. You don't know who you're going to get, who you're not going to get on a prelim. You probably subpoena a couple duplicative ones so that you're not left without the ability to make the points that you want to make. So my guess is 3 witnesses for the defense. I don't know if he's going to testify. I have no idea. I don't do criminal defense, so I don't even know. I mean, the guy's a police officer, probably doesn't have any prior convictions, although he's involved in prior shooting incidents. I don't know if I'd have him testify in this or not. I don't know. But it's a very, very interesting case. You're part of a very exclusive group. Nobody outside of the town of Modesto and Law Talk with Mike knows anything about this case. I don't think anyone else is covering it. But I find it really fascinating. Thank you all for coming out as usual. Oh, I really should be. You guys cheered me. Not that I was sad, but I was, you know. I'm dealing with adult stuff that's not fun. That's really the best way to put it. Aren't we all? So, you know, and I have stuff to do, so I didn't go for the cocktails on a Sunday. I was sticking with coffee. So there we go. Yeah, it's my colonoscopy. I want to announce it here. Just stop it. Just stop it. I'm not Oprah Winfrey. I'm not getting colonoscopy. Okay? All right. I will see you all soon. We'll have some more fun stuff, but I thought this was an interesting one, and I just did it. I know they were long. But you get Mr. Miyagi in there. You get all sorts of stuff. Oh, good Lord. All right. I will see you all soon. Have a good rest of your weekend. And that's that.